morning, everybody. I'm so excited to be a head coach in the SEC and at the University of Arkansas. We obviously drew a great opponent in the University of Georgia. Well coached, hard playing, physical football team that's very, very talented, and not in my wildest dreams that I believe that we would start with the University of Georgia, since I had just come from there. But we are excited about it, and we've had a really good practices up to this point.
Coach, we'll begin with Tom Murphy of the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette.
Morning, Sam. In scrimmage number 2, you talked about ball security. And I'm wondering, since that point till now, particularly with Felipe, how he's executed, what the ball security has been like, and if his relationship with the receivers you feel like is on point right now.
I think it's growing. I think he has more confidence in his wideouts that they're going to run the right proper depth, make the break at the proper time. He's throwing the ball very well right now. Ball security-wise, we certainly haven't had another scrimmage since scrimmage 2, but we have thudded pretty good in practice, and we also have done some live tackling individual drills, so hopefully we'll be fine with that on Saturday.
And when you look at Georgia's personnel, I mean, obviously you prepared for them when you were at Tennessee and the 2014 game here. But are there some characteristics about a Georgia defense in terms of athleticism, personnel?
Well, they're big, they're physical, they're well coached, they run to the football, and they're very physical when they get to the football. Any big plays excites their defense even more. And so negative plays, interceptions, anything of that nature. So we're certainly going to try to stay away from that. But Dan Lanning's as good a defensive coordinator as there is in the country. And, of course, Kirby's expertise is everything, but certainly on defense, and it shows on film.
Okay, thank you.
Next we'll go to Nate Allen.
Different offenses.
Nate,
I'm
can
sorry.
you repeat that, please? Nate, could you repeat your question, please? All right, looks like we've lost Nate. Let's go to Seth Emerson of The Athletic.
So you had a lot of experience and a long track record. What still did you gain from your time at Georgia that you think helped you get a head coaching job, and how would help you?
Well, obviously every year that you're in coaching, you gain knowledge, and going to a different head coach, you always find out a lot of what you'd like to do if you're a head coach. A lot of it's scheduling. I think what we did at Georgia scheduling-wise was outstanding, and certainly we've taken most of that here to Arkansas. You learn the expectations of recruiting. I think that's the biggest thing from Georgia, that, you're recruiting on steroids. And if you don't, you're not going to get the player. And so I learned that from Kirby, and learned a lot of things from Kirby and the staff that they had. But just those things come to my mind.
You and Mel Tucker from that first staff are already Power 5 head coaches. Did you look around that first year or two and see a lot of future head coaches in the room?
I did, and he's got them now as well, but I said it yesterday, without Georgia, without Kirby Smart, I wouldn't have had this opportunity. and I'm very, very grateful for that. But he has more than just myself and Mel on his staff that would be outstanding head football coaches, as well as I do. But without that opportunity, without winning and coming from a heavy winning program, you're not going to get head coaching jobs. And I'm very, very honored to have coached at Georgia.
Thanks.
This is Brandon Sudge of the Macon Telegraph.
Hey, Coach. Hope everything is going well there on your end. I wanted to ask you about the relationships that you were able to build with your alignment at Georgia. A lot of them have told me that y'all kind of had like a family type of camaraderie. Can you tell me any stories that you remember of how hard it was to leave them, or some favorite memories that you had with them in Athens?
Well, it's easy to be good to people that are good people. And we were very fortunate to have a room full of offensive linemen that were great kids, came from great households. And so it was very easy to get a relationship with those guys because they were fine men, still are, obviously. What was your second question? I'm sorry.
So I was just saying, like, how hard, I guess, was it at the end of last season to tell them that you were moving on?
Well, with recruiting and all those things going on, I didn't find out that I was really a viable candidate for the Arkansas job until the morning after the LSU game. So by the time that I had spoke with Kirby and by the time I met with Arkansas, there was no time to talk to the players. And they had a gala that evening, and I was interviewing for the Arkansas job at the same time. And so whenever I accepted the Arkansas job, I didn't have time to go face-to-face. I immediately flew to Arkansas that evening. I didn't have time to go face-to-face with the players, and I sent them all a text and just, talked about how much they mean to me. I'll be honest with you, I'm a crier, and if I had to sit in front of them and tell them I was leaving, I'd bawl my eyes out. I love those guys to this day, and it would have been very difficult.
Thank you.
Next is Brandon Marcello of 24/7 Sports.
Hey, Coach, how are you?
I'm doing good, thanks.
I was wondering if you've had a chance to be able to watch the first few weeks of the college football season, or even chat with some of your colleagues that are involved with those games, and what they've learned in this return to football, and how they've had to deal with that, whether it was sloppy play or special teams breakdowns, and how you could translate that going into your opener.
Well, I haven't had a lot of time to watch games, but I did get a text from Willie Fritz, who's the head coach at Tulane. He and I played together at Pittsburgh State, and he was talking about scrimmaging and tackling and things of that nature. And certainly the games I watched, conditioning played a part in those games, I believe. And the things that happen in every first game that every head coach is probably concerned about is, the turnovers, the conditioning, the tackling. Certainly with me, I'm certainly went over and over different scenarios with clock management. I didn't see a lot of problems with clock management in the few games that I was able to watch, but things that stuck out were tackling, what kind of condition the players are in, and certainly the ball security.
This being your first year as a head coach, obviously you have a lot to deal with anyway, but how has this, just these unprecedented times, made it more difficult to, one, get to know your players, your personnel, and then also, of course, practice and provide that physicality you want to see?
Well, I think the Zoom era that we all were in, and of course still in at some points, made it very, very difficult to get close to your players. It's just not the same as, and recruiting's the same way. But as far as practice and things of that nature, it's difficult because you test Sunday, Wednesday, Friday. I think you're going to change it to Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday now, but you're waiting on those results, and to say it doesn't wear on you to figure out if you have COVID, let alone the players and the staff and everything else, and your roster changes, not daily because there's not positives on a daily basis, but when it happens, who's quarantined, all those things wear on your mind. They weigh on your mind. And are you getting the third team guy enough reps because he may be the starter on Saturday? Just a lot of extra preparation, a lot of two-spotting things for us so we can get our entire team ready to play if COVID hit us hard in a week or two.
Thanks, Sam. Appreciate it.
That's all of our time, Coach. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm excited about this team. We're ready to go play, and looking forward to seeing my dear old friend Sam Pittman. And it's been a long time coming this off season in terms of our players being excited and the uncertainty involved in this year. And I know our guys are certainly extremely excited to go play. And I don't know that we're going to get much better without playing, so we need to go play so we can kind of find out where we are. So we're excited to go play Arkansas.
We'll begin with Chip Towers of the AJC.
Coach, since we talked to you last night, Otis Reese has levied some allegations of racism within the program. I just wonder if you could respond to that and share your thoughts on that.
I don't think he actually leveled comments about racism about the program, but I can't comment to the stuff that's going on with that because it's still with the NCAA and the SEC. So I think the statement we released earlier is pretty explanatory.
Thank you.
Next is Adam Rittenberg of ESPN.com. Adam, are you there? Okay, let's try Chris Vanini of The Athletic.
Hey, Kirby. Billy Napier, the guy you worked with at Alabama, is having success at Louisiana Lafayette. What do you remember about working with him, and what do you think of the success he's been having now?
He's very detailed, very organized, very intelligent. I think he did a wonderful job while we were at Alabama together. He's always been a bright mind. I've known Billy for a long time. His dad's a long-time great high school football coach in the state of Georgia, and you just always knew Billy was going to be successful no matter what he did. He's got a lot of energy. He's not afraid to think outside the box. He's passionate about the football game, and I think he'll be a great head coach for a long time.
I appreciate it. Thanks.
Next is Brandon Marcello of 24/7 Sports.
Hey, Kirby. I was just wondering, from these first few weeks of college football being played on television, and I was wondering if you've talked to any of your colleagues or just from watching those games to kind of learn a few things, and what have you noticed that you could take into your season opener from these first few weeks about, the new atmosphere we're in with football?
I hadn't talked to many guys about it. I've definitely watched a lot of games. The first thing that pops out, and it usually does every year, the special teams, the plays. It seemed like the first weekend there were a lot of return kicks for touchdowns, block kicks. So a lot of special teams games, plays that were major factors in games, and we tried to highlight that and show it to our players. It does seem that there's probably more soft tissue injuries, meaning guys are pulling things and getting injured. So your depth is, of course, your depth's a factor all the time with COVID and the pandemic going on. But it seems more prevalent that you're going to have to play more players because the conditioning level may or may not be there. I do think we're fortunate that we haven't had to play in what would be considered the hot part of the year, like it usually happens early in the season. It seems a little cooler, so that part's helped with the conditioning factor. But that's the biggest changes to me is I think without spring practice, you've got more errors and more mistakes that can expose if you're not prepared.
Do you think the 3-week delay for the SEC and the elongated practice time, less contact and everything has allowed you guys to be able to maybe be more in shape than some of those teams that started play 3 weeks ago?
Yeah, that's probably a good point. You know, I haven't thought about it that way, but there's probably some merit to that you know, sometimes sloppiness is because you're not prepared or you're not ready and you haven't had time to do that stuff. So, of course, they started earlier than we did. We started later than they did, and we all had the same practice build-up. But I know the mini camp was helpful for us in terms of getting our guys more prepared to play, and I certainly think the luxury they gave us of spreading the practice out over a larger number of days has allowed us to stay more healthy than in the past.
Thanks, Coach.
This is Tom Murphy, the Arkansas Democrat Gazette.
Hey, Kirby, when you look at a Kendall Briles offense, I'm wondering what strikes you. And then if you could talk about Arkansas personnel a little bit. You've already prepared for Felipe, obviously, and then what you think of Rakeem Boyd in the line.
Yeah, Rakeem Boyd's as good as there is in the SEC. I mean, this guy he's proven that he's a really good runner, physical runner, intelligent, smart, sees the field, and any offensive line coached by a head coach like Sam Pittman is going to be a great offensive line unit. And what they were able to do in a really tough run league, our league last year was as tough against the run as there is, and he put up really good numbers. So he does a great job with that. As far as Coach Briles, you know, I've always had respect and watched everywhere he's been as an offensive-minded coach. He creates a lot of issues. It's like constant pressure because there's never a breather. You know, it's they talk about it being warp speed, but it's that constant pressure of, number one, balls vertical down the field, spacing of the field, making you play the full 53 yards, and the tempo with which they do it. It's just tough to defend, especially when you talk to other people that have had to defend it.
And then when you look at what Sam inherited at Arkansas, obviously the team's got a pretty good SEC losing streak. What kind of what comes into play in building in the SEC, particularly to challenge in the West?
I mean, I think it starts with the belief in the people in the organization and the belief in each other. I mean, it always starts with that. It starts with a core foundation in your weight room, a belief that you're going to compete, you're going to get better. You know, every game's different. I mean, it's not like, you know, everybody wants to go out and win every game, but when you're building a program, you're trying to build the trust, faith, and confidence in the organization and the people in the organization that you're going to get better. And each step you take is a better opportunity. It's not a league for the faint of heart. I can promise you that, because it's a tough physical league.
Thanks, Kirby.
Next is Mike Griffith of AJC Dog Nation.
Yeah, Coach, a couple of years ago at Dustin, I think you talked about kind of the state of the world we're in with players wanting to play right away, particularly the quarterback position. I know a lot of the legislation has been put off a year because of COVID-19, but are you in favor of the one-time transfer? And what are just some of your thoughts about the nature of college football and the ability of players to transfer in a program from one to another?
Well, I think it's very important. Anytime you look at it, you got to look at it from the 3,000 feet above and see the landscape of things and what's going on with everybody in the country. I mean, I'm certainly one that thinks if a kid has a better opportunity to go play somewhere else and that's their choice, we want to support that young man. You know, in the SEC, there's rules that are in place about going from one school to another that I'm not really in control of. That's not my decision. That's not my rule. There's rules that were voted on among the ADs and presidents, and the commissioner, he has to uphold those, and those are their decisions. That's not a decision that we get to make as coaches. But anytime a kid gets an opportunity to go play somewhere else, and it gives him a better opportunity to play, there's been many guys that we've had that we've supported that have gone on to play other places, and that's usually a decision that each guy not something that has been a decision for us to make.
Coach, we'll finish you off with Bob Holt, the Arkansas Democrat Gazette.
Hey, Kirby, how you doing? Sam spoke very highly of your defense the other day. What do you like about your defense? What makes you guys so good on that side of the ball?
Well, I don't know that we've been tested this year, so I mean, to say that we're so good, I think that's still up for debate. We have to go out and actually play well, and this defense has not done that yet. So I certainly think that we have some good returning players that have worked really hard, and they're excited. And what I've enjoyed is their work ethic each day, and not a level of entitlement that I've sometimes been around with some defenses, and these guys haven't been that way. They've embraced the challenge, and they've embraced the grind, but they still got to put the performance on the field.
And is Daniels, has he been medically cleared yet with his knee about playing?
I couldn't understand you. Huh?
I'm sorry, is Daniels, has he been medically cleared yet for the game?
No, JT has not been medically cleared yet. We're hopeful he's able to clear here in the next couple of days, and it's one of those things that's really beyond our control right now.